Today's story involves a daughter-in-law who spoke harshly to her mother-in-law. And even her husband stepped in to express his anger at his mother. What could have happened? Let's take a look together. Please like and subscribe our channel.
Hello, my husband is 6 years older than me, and we met at the same company and got married. When the talk of marriage began, my in-laws said they would support us a lot. My husband said that since my in-laws were going to provide a house, I should quit my job, which was my in-laws' opinion. I was afraid of career interruption, so I didn't quit my job. The company I'm working for is not a conglomerate, but it guarantees parental leave. During parental leave, 80% of the salary is paid. So there's no need for me to quit my job. My in-laws said since they would provide the house, I should quit my job. If there were loans taken out for setting up our newly home, we would have to work together, but since my in-laws are providing the house, I should focus on housework and raising children. We spent a few months enjoying our honeymoon. After our honeymoon trip, we occasionally had arguments over minor differences of opinion with my husband, but we never had a big fight. My in-laws had prepared a new home near their house. I thought it was good because it was not far from my company. My parents' house is about 2 hours away from our house. Since my parents' house is far away, I couldn't visit often. On the other hand, since my in-laws' house was close, I ended up visiting often. About 3 months after getting married, there was my mother-in-law's birthday. We went on a trip with my in-laws' family to celebrate my mother-in-law's birthday. We went on a 2-night 3-day trip with my in-laws and uncle's family. I prepared the trip. I searched for the travel destination and restaurants and made the schedule. I guess I overdid it a bit, while taking care of various things with unfamiliar in-laws' family members on the trip. On the day we returned from the trip, I went to the emergency room and received an IV, and barely went to work the next day. My husband didn't understand why I was sick. He wondered why I got sick when we didn't cook on the trip and ate out. I said it seemed to happen because I was nervous around the still unfamiliar in-law family members. My husband seemed a little upset. He seemed to be upset by my words, that I felt uncomfortable with his family members. Living near my in-laws, there were many cases where we gathered at my in-laws with my uncle's family. There were many cases where we went to my in-laws alone. However, there were many cases where I was called by my mother-in-law even on weekdays. My mother-in-law called me on my way home from work and asked me to have dinner together about 3 times a week. On the days when my husband was working overtime, I had to go to my in-laws alone and have dinner with my in-laws and come home. I wanted to rest at home on the weekend. But when my mother-in-law called and asked to go to the supermarket together, I drove and picked up my mother-in-law and went shopping together. Sometimes, even on weekdays, I went to the supermarket with my mother-in-law after work. This was very hard for me. What would there be for the two of us to go to the supermarket so often? Ingredients can also be ordered online. My uncle-in-law also lives not far from my in-laws, but my in-laws hardly ever called my sister-in-law. They only told me to come and go. I told you that we went on a trip for my mother-in-law's first birthday after getting married. But something really absurd happened. My family came to our house on the weekend, after we returned from a trip with my in-laws' family. My parents and my sister's family came together. During the week, my mother-in-law called, and I was at the supermarket with my husband. My mother-in-law said let's go to the supermarket. When I told her that I was at the supermarket, she bluntly asked if I had come to prepare for my mother-in-law's birthday meal. I honestly told her that I was at the supermarket because my family was coming. But I never thought this would make my mother-in-law angry. My family came on Saturday, stayed at our house for a day and left. Whenever my father came to our house he would say, "Let's eat out." He would pay for it, and told me not to worry about food. But I didn't feel that way. Since my family lives far away, and I can't see them often, I wanted to serve a hearty meal. Even though I'm not good at cooking. On Saturday, we had dinner at home with my family. Went out for a meal the next morning, and my family went back. But this became a problem. My mother-in-law called my husband and got angry. My mother-in-law thought we went shopping to prepare for your birthday meal, because we said we went to the supermarket. But she said something because we served a meal when my family came, but didn't prepare a meal for her birthday. I told my husband, "Didn't we go on a trip for her birthday?" My husband said he thought the same. But my mother-in-law was so angry that I should call her. I called my mother-in-law and suggested eating out on her birthday. My mother-in-law said okay in a tone that didn't seem to be in a good mood and hung up. But she called my husband again and got angry. I got annoyed with my husband too. I was almost meeting her every week, and do I have to prepare a meal for her birthday? 2. Why is my mother-in-law doing this? When I got angry at both my mother-in-law and me, my husband seemed to be at a loss. But this is funny too. Wouldn't it have been okay if my husband clearly told my mother-in-law? "Didn't we go on a trip to celebrate Mom's birthday? Let's have a birthday cake while eating out on your birthday." I didn't understand why my husband didn't know what to do about this. In the end, we took my in-laws out to eat on my mother-in-law's birthday. I went straight after work that day. But I also got a scolding from my mother-in-law for being so late. What's really ridiculous is that my uncle-in-law's family didn't come that day. When I asked my mother-in-law, she said my uncle-in-law and sister-in-law were too busy to come. My in-laws also provided a house when my uncle-in-law and sister-in-law got married. And just like they did to me, they told my sister-in-law to quit her job and take good care of the house and raise her children well. As soon as my sister-in-law heard that, she quit her job. And she's been a full-time housewife ever since. She doesn't live far from her in-laws either. A few days ago, I talked to my sister-in-law. I clearly stated that we would eat out on my mother-in-law's birthday. I guess my uncle-in-law and sister-in-law thought that the trip they took in honor of my mother-in-law's birthday was enough. But I didn't understand why I was being treated this way. My husband and I shared the housework. My mother-in-law was always worried that my husband might do housework. If my in-laws provided a house, it doesn't mean I have to do all the housework even if we both work. When I come home from work, I'm as tired as my husband and don't want to do anything. Because of my mother-in-law, who always told me what to do, but never said a word to my sister-in-law, I was constantly stressed. My husband was more annoyed because he couldn't draw a clear line, and was caught in the middle of me and my mother-in-law. After my mother-in-law's birthday, I started to avoid my mother-in-law. If my mother-in-law suggested going to the supermarket, I would make an excuse that I wasn't feeling well, and told my husband to take my mother-in-law to the supermarket. I didn't go to my in-laws' house as often as I used to. Even when making excuses, I made ridiculous ones on purpose. I didn't go to my in-laws' house, making excuses like I have to visit my sick friend. Or I have to go to the vet with my coworker because her cat is sick. My mother-in-law started to sound more and more annoyed when talking to me. Regardless, I continued to not go to my in-laws' house. Then my mother-in-law started to nitpick about me. My mother-in-law told me to quit my job before I got married. But she said I was neglecting housework because I was stubborn and kept going to work. When I asked what I was neglecting in housework, my mother-in-law didn't answer my question and just changed the subject. My mother-in-law also said, "How much can a woman earn by working? Are you working because you're bored at home? When I told her I earn as much as my husband, she was surprised. I also told her that my job prospects are much better than my husband's in the future. I asked her why she doesn't call my sister-in-law, who doesn't work and has a lot of time because her kids are grown up. My mother-in-law seemed taken aback and said, "My sister-in-law is busy raising 2 kids and doing housework." When I asked if she was busier than me who works, she couldn't answer and just glared at me. And then my father-in-law's birthday came in the summer. My father-in-law said let's not make the daughters-in-law work hard, and just eat out once and be done with it. But my mother-in-law said how can you say that when you have 2 daughters-in-law? And asked me to prepare a grand birthday meal. I asked why I have to prepare my father-in-law's birthday meal alone, while my uncle-in-law and sister-in-law are doing nothing, and my mother-in-law said, "They are the eldest son, they have to take care of us later. So there's no need to make them work hard from now." I was speechless. Does it make sense for people who are not working now to work later? In the end, due to my father-in-law's persistence, we ate out at a duck stew restaurant on my father-in-law's birthday. We reserved a room, lit candles on a birthday cake, and sang a birthday song. And my father-in-law was satisfied with that. But it seems that was a big dissatisfaction for my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law called my sister-in-law and complained a lot that I didn't prepare a birthday meal for my father-in-law. But I wonder if she didn't realize that the person she was backbiting was also a daughter-in-law. I don't particularly like my sister-in-law, but when I talked about this, we had a harmonious conversation. And as winter approached, something really absurd happened. It's one thing to ask me to prepare a birthday meal for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, but does it make sense for me to prepare a birthday meal for my uncle-in-law? My mother-in-law instructed me to prepare a birthday meal for my uncle-in-law at their house. I was so dumbfounded that I didn't know what to say, so I calmed myself down and told my mother-in-law. When I asked why I should prepare the birthday meal for my uncle-in-law, when my sister-in-law is there, she said that after marriage, I have to prepare a birthday meal for each in-law's first birthday. There's such a strange custom. Is there such a law in the world? It must be something my mother-in-law made up. I clearly told my mother-in-law that I wouldn't prepare a birthday meal for my uncle-in-law. She got angry and said that they gave us a house, and I can't even do that? I said I couldn't. I unintentionally blurted out. If she wanted to prepare a birthday meal for her eldest son's birthday so much, she should do it herself. I said that my sister-in-law doesn't need to prepare her husband's birthday meal, and my mother-in-law can do it. And if they wanted to take advantage of us for giving us a house when we got married, we should have refused the house. My mother-in-law lamented that she gave her son a house when he got married, and now she has to hear this from her daughter-in-law. My husband said to my mother-in-law in a cautious tone, "Mom, the worst mother-in-law in the world is the one who brags about making her daughter-in-law suffer, so please stop now." When he said this, my mother-in-law screamed and made a fuss, saying that even her son had turned on her. My father-in-law tried to calm my mother-in-law down, but she suddenly started crying, saying that no one was on her side. My husband tried to explain several times that it wasn't a matter of taking sides, but my mother-in-law just wept. I told my mother-in-law this. I now understand why my uncle-in-law and sister-in-law rarely come here even though we live close by. I don't understand why you only insist on daughter-in-law's duties to me, who also received a house when we got married, just like my uncle-in-law. And I now understand that the reason my sister-in-law rarely comes to her in-law's house is because of you. I said I have no choice but to keep my distance from you. If you want to cause your second son to get divorced, keep doing what you're doing, and I went home. After this incident, I didn't go to my in-law's house for a while. I developed a sort of camaraderie with my sister-in-law, and we occasionally talked on the phone. My sister-in-law says that my uncle-in-law still takes my mother-in-law's side. So she says it's hard, but she's going to do what she thinks is best. And then my mother-in-law stopped giving strange instructions or demands. I guess I have to do as my sister-in-law said to my mother-in-law. After that, my husband got angry at my mother-in-law in the middle, persuaded her, and my mother-in-law hardly made any strange demands of me. If my husband kept being indecisive between my mother-in-law and me, and I kept getting stressed, I don't think I could have maintained my marriage with him up until now.
It seems the mother-in-law wanted to satisfy herself by exploiting the labor of her daughter-in-law. What could possibly be the psychology behind such mothers-in-law? The author seems to be a good person, and I don't understand why the mother-in-law would step in and cause her daughter-in-law to close off, when she could just let things be.